You might not know everything that's going on. You might not be the smartest person in the room. It's okay, because as long as you're the most curious person in the room, that's what's gonna get you really, really far. This next generation of girls in STEM need to be people who aim past just being in STEM, but defining STEM.
Maybe just jumping right in. I remember when I first saw you on LinkedIn, saw you're a junior in high school, doing all these amazing things. You have 3 different nonprofits / startups, companies that you're working on. But when I saw your LinkedIn bio, your headline says, "Don't chase trends, build algorithms that predict them." What does that mean to you?
So my banner that says, "Don't chase trends, instead build algorithms that predict them," is supposed to be a whole metaphor for power. Because I feel like too often girls are like, they're always trained to be followers, to do what's relevant. And instead, I wanted to break that and instead tell them to be those decision makers instead of the followers. So I feel like girls don't think as often about the systems behind who sets the trends, how are the trends even set, but instead they're like following them. And a huge part of what I do is to tell these girls that you can be the people that are writing those models, that are launching those companies, that are setting those trends instead of being just following those trends. And it's also supposed to be a metaphor for that power, for showing girls that you can understand those patterns and you can learn how to code and build them. The more that you learn how to do this, the more that you notice those patterns on how trends are set and how algorithms are built, then they're reframing the situation from being people who are looking at what other people are doing and then trying to get on that bandwagon, but instead setting that bandwagon, creating that thing. I want them to aim past participation, because I feel like this next generation of girls in STEM need to be people who aim past just being in STEM, but defining STEM. So that's supposed to be the message that I want everyone who visits my LinkedIn to see, and it's a huge part of what I promote in all of my initiatives that I do.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you building the algorithms? How are you leading the way for these girls?
So a huge part of my STEM advocacy and telling these girls that they can be in the power seats is with Code with Impact, we host AI literacy workshops. And so just recently, like I was telling you, we are partnered with Asian Women Advancing AI, and we're working together to have a virtual workshop for elementary and middle school kids, but with a like not just girls, but all kids, because I want them all to kind of understand that they can be in the position of defining AI, and I want them to understand AI, because I feel like often people are just like thinking of AI now like it's the weather. They're like, okay, this thing is coming in, what do we do? Should we like get our umbrellas out? Like, how do we adapt to it? And I feel like young people, they just overhear conversations, or maybe they've kind of heard that, AI is going to take away all the jobs. People in STEM especially, they're like, we're not going to need computer scientists anymore. Like, what do I do now? I feel like they think that because they don't know all of the ins and outs of AI. And so what I try to do in order to put these young people in the power seat is to learn how AI is built, not just learning how to use AI. I don't want them to just think of AI as ChatGPT or Gemini that they just use, but I want them to be able to build it. So with these AI literacy workshops, what we do is we talk about what is AI, how it works, how the models work, where does that data come from, and I want them to understand that it's something that they can start doing themselves instead of just being users. But like the goal isn't to make everyone an engineer. It's just to have them understand that they can be a part of the conversation that kind of shapes the future and that kind of defines where the future is heading. So that's what we try to do with these AI literacy workshops.
I think the computer science mind, the mind that it takes to do it well, is a pretty creative one. We were talking just a little bit ago about kind of music, and I have a lot of music friends who are not only great musicians, but really smart computer scientists or STEM people too. I think there's something there that's like an overlap between the creativity you have to see a piece of music and bring it to life, and the creativity to bring some random letters and words and syntax into something that you can't yet see, but you know it will happen. I think it's really cool and great for young people to be getting that too, because when you're younger, like you said in the beginning, you kind of are following the leader, right? You're chasing the trend and kind of just going along with the flow. When you then learn, oh wow, I can actually set things in motion. I have some, to use the word you said, power over um, creating things and making things for other people. That's a pretty powerful thing for them to learn. And so all
Yeah,
of this
and
is with your company, Code with Impact. Why don't you tell us quickly about the Computer Science podcast and then Reviving Calm?
yeah, of course. So, Computer Science is my podcast that's going along with the same teaching people, teaching girls that they can be a part of STEM. In Computer Science, it's similar to your podcast where we inspire young people to kind of see the role models that they have in STEM. And it's not just, it's called Computer Science, but we also host people from obviously CS, but AI, machine learning, business. We had a guest on philosophy and politics. So we do all of these different majors that people are doing in college in order to be a role model for younger girls who may not have as many resources as other people do in elite college admissions. And so we kind of show them that even if at their school, like they don't have as many resources to take those AP classes or they don't feel like they can do that, they can take those classes or start that initiative. We want to pair them with role models that show that they can. And all of these girls that I interview, they're doing really, really well. They're founders, they started companies, they definitely won a lot of like research Olympiads, and they're people who have broken stereotypes and broken trends. And Computer Science just aims to connect these young girls with role models. So then they don't have to be like, oh, can I take an AP class? But they're like, yes, I can. Like they see these people doing it. And then Reviving Calm is my initiative, which actually started from a community project that I was doing for Girl Scouts because we have to do it as like our gold award. We have to start a community project. So that's how it started off. I was like, hey, let me just host these yoga classes because I love yoga. But it turned into like the biggest thing and it means so much to me now because I feel like the stress that kids face is so real. Like people act like stress is just normal now. And, you know, kids have social media now, screens, they have all of these crazy schedules and tests, and it can just get really stressful. So, with Reviving Calm, I started this because I want to teach these kids that wellness doesn't just mean going to a spa, going to this like luxury place. You can create wellness at your own home. Like you can do yoga stretches in the morning. And yoga and meditation is such an incredible way to de stress. I love yoga and meditation. And so I wanted to share this with kids that they can also de stress this way. And so I host classes to put it in a community setting. And I want everyone to realize that yoga and meditation are the most accessible tools out there to de stress. And I hope more and more kids can do it to build that mind body connection.
Certainly. Yeah, that's becoming a big part of the world. A lot of services helping people de-stress because the world is so crazy. So it's great that you're getting them young thinking about that. So, Kashika, you're a junior in high school. We are talking just earlier, you're going through all the AP classes that everyone has taken. The majority of our guests are college aged, and you're only our second high school student. So, from that different perspective, tell us where you had all these ideas and why you actually took the initiative to start them.
Yeah, of course. So, all of these initiatives, they're all centered, if you notice, around young people. It's all about giving young people tools and resources to chase them, to de stress, and to have role models. And the reason that I feel so passionate about starting all of these things and the reason that I realized, like, okay, we need this is because when I was in elementary school, when I was in middle school, I didn't think that I had that. Like, yes, there were incredible podcasts, there's incredible, like, de stressing things like you talk about, but there's still a gap between adults showing people how to de stress and youth showing people how to de stress and how they can be in STEM. And so the whole point of what I do is to pair young people, like high schoolers, that are teaching elementary and middle schoolers. And I feel like this place where it's high schoolers who have just gone through elementary and middle school, they can give so many more pieces of advice because they've just gone through that phase on how these kids can set themselves up for success. And so whenever I started these initiatives, I told all my friends about it at school. I'm obviously telling more people at my school. And you can see the whole movement that it's creating with high schoolers who, like I said, have just gone through this phase. When they're really creating that change, I feel like they can create it from a unique standpoint because they've experienced it firsthand, and it's not been as many years as adults have had from that experience. And I feel like they can give so many better tips and just create more change that's more relevant for these elementary and middle schoolers. And so I'm really passionate about what I do and how I help young people. And I feel like, yes, like you said, I'm taking a lot of AP classes and things can get really busy. But when I know the change that I'm able to create, it just keeps me going and it's just all worth it.
Absolutely. Was there a specific moment or like and I was sitting in class and saw this little kid having trouble or something like that, that really sparked all of this?
Yeah. So it was actually after I'd already launched Computer Science. I recently did a podcast episode. Like I had recently done one on this girl who was attending Harvard University for computer science. And I had this African American girl reach out to me and she was like, I was really scared. Should I like join CSUIL at my school because everyone there is mostly Asian guys? And she's like, I didn't think that I could do it, but I saw your episode and she was like, it truly inspired me. And now I'm a part of this club and I feel so grateful that you created that episode. And I was like, yeah, like this is what I do. Like this is for what I do. And it's just so inspiring when I see that the impact that I'm creating is truly allowing these people from all over the world to be able to see that they can be represented in STEM and they can be a part of this change that's being created. And I know representation is a very used word, but it's so essential that we do that more and more because there's people all over the world that are going to need some aspect of representation. And a lot of times I see certain groups are missing from the picture of STEM. And so computer science allows these people to understand that, hey, they can be a part of this too. So all of the work that I do, every workshop I run, every project I start, I know that it will slightly change the representation and the picture of STEM for a young person. And that just keeps me going.
Yeah, the interesting thing there is that it's not that representation is the way it is because people who aren't part of STEM or whatever it is can't do it. It's just because they haven't seen people
Exactly.
doing it in the first place. And so you being the person who goes out and shows the pathway and then allows people to recognize the trends and maybe slightly chase them, but kind of jumping back to our earlier metaphor, you're setting the trend so that then people will follow who hadn't noticed it in the first place. And I think that's really great. It takes someone to get that chain started.
Yeah, and I actually love that you said STEM and doing CS is creative because I think a lot of times people think that coding is like you're sitting at a computer and just writing logical lines. But like you said, there's so many overlaps between people who are computer scientists and people who are doing music. And I also, when I was little, I thought code was just structural. It was for people who liked math and who really liked logic and just like being very boring. But when I got into it, I realized it's so much more creative than that. And I think there is a connection between people who can do music because it's like your left and right hemispheres working together with the people who are doing computer science because it's so much more creative than just writing lines of code. You're creating change, you're finding a solution to a problem that you can change through code. And so that's the whole point of these things to show young people that code is creative. And I really like that you brought up music because I feel like there's so many parallels between the two.
Certainly. I'm curious what you think about AI's impact on that creativity because in my mind, yes, AI will make it easier, faster, and sometimes not even completely necessary for at least as many people, if not any people, to be doing specific jobs. However, instead of having to go search through a book of syntax for SQL or C++ code and figure out what I have to do to fix the code, now I can pull myself back and think, okay, this is what I'm trying to build. I'm trying to build an app that will help these people accomplish this task. How can I do that? Well, okay, let's just ask AI. And it'll maybe help me with that little syntax error and think of different ways to do it. But instead of being so entrenched in the um, kind of minuscule, more detailed work of the actual code, now I'm thinking of the actual impact that code will have on other people. That's kind of how I see AI, and it will, I'm certain, change the job landscape, but we will adapt to that. How do you think it will affect creativity in coding?
Yeah, okay, this is a really good question. And I feel like so many times, not just in code, but in any task that requires creativity, whenever people use AI, obviously you're bound to use less creativity. And there's so much research about this on how using AI will diminish creativity and like will not allow your brain to be creative and create long-term cognitive atrophy. But I feel like with AI, like you said, my personal views are that AI makes things more efficient and allows you to focus more on what truly matters. You know, when Google first came out, people were like, oh my God, Google's here. Now nobody's going to be able to think. But what happened was that our knowledge, like before Google, everyone had to remember things. You had to remember every single fact or like figure out how you can look it up in a textbook. But now you can just Google it. So our intelligence, our point of focus changed from retrieving that information, like figuring out where you can get it from, to being able to like strategize on how like what prompt you have to search in, like what you have to put in Google. And I feel like AI is not that much different. It's the same thing that comes from you don't have to remember every single syntax now in a coding language, but instead you can focus on how can you use syntax that AI can create for you or that AI can help you with in order to actually be more creative. Because now that AI can do the grunt work for us, you have more time to focus on the overview, on the real impact that you're creating. Because AI, yes, it knows a lot, but it doesn't know the world from your point of view. And I feel like the unique point of view we have is so special. And it's essential that we collaborate with AI, but not overuse it. If you're putting in a prompt and just letting AI do everything and just taking what AI did and then putting that as your work and putting that as your final thing, I feel like ideas are just gonna get so narrow and all of these different things that we could have had are just gonna be like one thing that AI generates. But when you put in your own ideas alongside that, which can be so hard, take people writing essays for school. You can ask AI to do it. And why would somebody want to add their work when it's already done for you? But I feel like in computer science and in code, it's so essential that coders learn that yes, you can use AI, but you still have to do that heavy work of putting in your own spark to whatever algorithm you're coding, to whatever you're trying to create, putting in your own brain with it. I think that'll help us create even more amazing things with more efficiency, as long as we don't overly use AI, but collaborate with AI.
Yeah, on that topic, there's a Instagram account that I follow where it's this guy, is comedian, kind of making fun of big tech AI startups, and there's multiple different personalities. There's like the old guy who has like glasses and is kind of like does everything by hand and is learning, but is kind of slow compared to the other employees. There's the like employee who wants to check out early all the time, but then there's the intern who like isn't even graduated from college, but uses AI on everything. But the boss doesn't know. So the boss says, okay, make this change. And then in 2 seconds, the intern says, okay, we're done. Um, and he's like, wow, Jimmy, you're fast. When really it was like, oh yeah, I just use Claude. Um, and it's funny because the videos will go through like, oh wow, we just raised $10 million. We raised $20 million, and then the intern presses one key, and the whole thing crashes, and they are bankrupt because he used AI and had no clue what he was doing. I'm sure I did a pretty poor job of showing explaining that. I'll have to find the account and link it in the description. But to your point, um, it's not that creativity is automatically hampered by AI, because I don't think it is. Just like you're saying, it's the way you use it um, that determines whether it's hampered or enhanced. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how people handle that moving forward. Because similar with like Instagram or social media, is it's the easy thing to do is let the addictive algorithm suck you in and take away your time and not use it beneficially. Just like the easy thing to do is have AI write your English essay so you don't have to do anything. Um, but I think if you use it the right way, well, writing an English essay on your own is great. Writing an English essay completely, showing it to AI, learning, oh my gosh, I used a run on sentence and could use this other cool metaphor that would enhance my point here. Well, that just makes it better. So, yeah, it's certainly interesting. I don't know if you had any additional thoughts, but
Yeah. So, okay, recently me and my friend have started doing this research experiment on AI and how it does affect teens when they're using it for academic tasks. And like you said, when you're showing AI what's happening, what we found, so we had 36 different high school teenagers take AI tests on, and they were doing like math, they were doing reading, they were doing writing work, and then innovation work. So we found that when you actually collaborate with AI, you're not just like taking AI's ideas, but you're actually being exposed to new ideas that you maybe couldn't have thought of before.
Mhm.
And we found that when they're collaborating with AI, it does actually increase alpha waves, which are related to creativity. And we thought that they wouldn't. We thought just collaborating with AI would be so much less like brain activation than using AI, than just not using AI. But in reality, we found that when they collaborated, it did increase alpha, which means creativity boosted. So I definitely feel like, and versus when they used it as just as a solver, just like somebody who did the whole work for them, there was very little activation in those beta and alpha brainwaves that are related to focus and creativity. So even when you're collaborating with AI, I feel like there's so much potential there if you collaborate properly. And I think that's going to be the new era of where AI is taken. Whoever can collaborate the best with AI and not be tempted to just take its work, but instead work with it and use those better prompts and use their own brain. I think those are the people that are truly going to find success in the CS AI fields in the future.
So I'm curious, how are y'all tracking the alpha and beta brainwaves?
So we are using EEG headsets, and so it takes electroencephalography to track brainwaves. And so all of our participants, all of our teens, they're gonna wear the headset, and then while they're taking the test, it records the brainwaves on an app, and then we transfer it for actual analysis to our computers.
That's super cool. And this is in your high school?
Yeah, so we're doing it as part of science fair for a science experiment, and the participants that we've had are from our high school. They're all from our public high school, so we're able to get a large, like different income levels, different demographics, and so it's been really nice because we did 18 guys, 18 girls, and so we're still in the process of kind of finishing this up, and I will definitely try to share the results with you and see how it goes.
That'd be awesome. That's also extremely cool that you are getting to test that as part of just your class. That's great. So I'm curious now on the Computer Sheehan's podcast. Love the play on name, by the way. Um, what are some of the best pieces of advice you've received from guests?
Okay, all of the guests we have, they're doing so many different things. They're so different. But I truly feel, and I love noticing these little patterns and these trends across people. And I found that so many people have said this. And so I just like want to share it. It's that so often, and we have all girls on our podcast, so it's computer Sheehan's. So often it's like people, girls, but I don't just want to say girls. I feel like all young people that are new to a space, they feel like they don't belong in that space and they feel like they can't say what they want to say. So it's so essential that young people learn to be confident. And the most common thing across all the women that I've interviewed are that they have so much confidence in themselves and they have so much just conviction in what they do. And that's what I want other young people to see that they can do as well. So, the biggest tip would just be to be confident in what you're doing and understand that you can do it. Know that you can speak up in whatever space you're starting, even if you might not know everything that's going on. You might not be the smartest person in the room. It's okay, because as long as you're the most curious person in the room, as long as you're the person who is willing to learn, willing to make mistakes, willing to accept if maybe something that they've said was incorrect, they're willing to take it on a playful, like with a playful heart and being humorous about it, and they're willing to learn and be curious. I feel like that's what's going to get you really, really far. And especially when you're in a room where you might not know everybody and you might feel like you're a little bit less smart or below the other people who might have more experience than you, just being confident. And yes, you might not be completely confident, but there's like a couple tips that I've picked up along the way with my own experience and with what people have said. Is there's that external confidence, which shows in your body posture, it shows in how nicely you speak, how maybe you're not stuttering, or how good posture you have. That's your external confidence, right? And that's something that everyone struggles with. That's something that I'm constantly working on too. But then there's that internal confidence, which is your own mental conviction and your own belief that you can do something, and that if you set your mind to it, you can do it and you belong in that space. That's the internal confidence that I feel like everyone should start building up. And that's what's really going to get you ahead in rooms and in spaces where maybe there's not a lot of people like you.
Certainly. In just another parallel between music and in this conversation, I'm taking a conducting class, and we just read a book called The Musician's Soul. The entire book is actually doesn't talk about conducting at all. All it talks about is growing to know your inner self so that you can fully use it and be a part of it in your daily life. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about with the internal confidence. It's like, okay, I know who I am. I know that I'm trying to do these things because I love them, appreciate them, are interested in them. And that's maybe different than Kashika or different than Wes or different than whoever, but that's fine because that's me. And then when you go into those conversations, what's extremely interesting is regardless of the physical posture, which you could say may be improved by the internal posture, it's kind of like just an energy you can feel. Like we all know that person we've met that's like, wow, they're just confident. They know what they're doing. They know themselves. I think it's just more and more recently, I found it so interesting how there's almost the air around a person tells you a lot about who that person is. So it's pretty cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. So a lot of our audience is entrepreneurs, people wanting to have their own business, have their own business already. Um, as a high school student, you have lots of things vying for your time, whether it's 8 hours of school day or I know you do lots of extracurriculars beyond just these initiatives you're starting. What advice or thoughts do you have on time management, working with other people, leadership, those types of things?
Yeah, of course. So, like you said, yes, I'm in high school, I'm doing all of these things. Time management is something that you can talk about for hours, but I feel like it's like everyone struggles with it. And people talk about time management like it's a personality trait. They're like, okay, either I'm a good time manager or I'm not. And it's like either you're naturally organized or you're not. But really, I feel like anybody can be a be like a good time manager and have good time management, even if you're not the type of person who likes color coded planners or who likes to make like impressive super time blocked calendars. I love that. I'm a very type A person, so I have my Google Calendar, my Apple Calendar planned out every single day. But I feel like that's not what time management should mean, but instead it's just keeping things simpler and more intentional. That's what I've started doing because, yes, I've been getting more and more busy and it's hard to keep up with your calendar. It's hard to color code everything. So, what I've started doing is shifting what I think of time management as to being more simple, more getting what I need to get done faster, and then so I can have time to like do things that really matter to me, do things that I'm truly passionate about, further my initiatives, and not just be like, okay, I have to do physics right now, I have to do math right now, let me put it in my calendar. So I don't think of time as something to just squeeze more tasks into, but instead to like build my time around what matters to me. So I'll try to finish all of my schoolwork done super fast in school, those little gaps of time that you have between classes or whenever you're just walking into a class and maybe the lecture hasn't started yet, using those gaps of time to finish up all of my schoolwork. So then after school, I have more time to do those things that truly matter to me. So for me, time management is really about alignment with my goals and alignment with what I want to do. And so if I say that I care about building things, about leading projects, about doing these initiatives, then my schedule has to reflect that. My schedule can't mean, okay, I'm managing my time. Let me do an hour of work here, hour of work here. What I want to do is build my calendar around what keeps me motivated and what I'm truly aligned with. And that way, I don't think of my days as super busy or stressful, but it's instead stuff that I really, really want to do and stuff that truly keeps me energized. So, one kind of tip that I'd like to say here is to build your time blocks around what work for you. Like build it around what you think, like you're gonna know yourself the most, right? So build it around yourself. Don't build it around like, okay, I think that I should do this work and this work and then I should go to the gym for like this much time, and then build it around what you know you want to do. So if you know, like for me, whenever I do math, if I'm doing my math homework, after that I'm gonna need a little bit of time to kind of de-stress, to maybe go on social media. I put that down on my calendar. I put down 15 minutes to maybe go check Instagram, to go just like take a scroll. Because if I don't put that on and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do math and then I'm going to move on to this project. I know that if I'm not able to move on and I do take a Instagram break or I do get on my phone, even though I said I wouldn't, it's going to put me in a downward spiral for the rest of the day because I didn't achieve this thing. So now that I'm like behind, it throws a lot of people off. But if I had put 15 minutes of time down, which is what I've started doing, I'm still following my schedule, even if it's not about being productive all the time. It's about balancing your time out and understanding yourself and building your schedule in a way that you know you're going to be able to follow. And you know that it's going to truly keep you happy and aligned.
What I hear through all of that is do things that you truly enjoy and want to do. I think a lot of people would hear go to school, do homework in between classes, get home, work on other things as overwhelming, stressful. If that's the case, well, then those are not the things that you should be doing. I think a lot of entrepreneurs could potentially think, oh, well, I'm going to start a power washing business because I know you can make a lot of money. And then they get into it and it's like, oh gosh, I got to go do 10 houses that I'm going to power wash today. I don't really want to wake up at 6 a.m. to get started and go grab the water and get the material. Like, if that's true, then don't do it. Like, do the things that you want to enjoy because then, like yourself, you can have 8 hours of school where you're doing calculus, BCE, and physics and all these different things and cramming things in between, and then get home and still be energized enough to do these other initiatives because you are truly enjoying them. And I think that's another thing I've been thinking about recently. Like, okay, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Do I truly enjoy them, or is there another motivation behind it? And if I don't truly enjoy it, well, you're only on this earth for a while. So make sure you're spending the time that you are here doing things that you truly do enjoy. So,
Exactly. And I feel like you said, when you're starting a business, doing something that you truly want to do will keep you so much more motivated. If you think a person who, like, let's say just works like 8 hours a day, like normal people, right? They might like, okay, they might enjoy their work. If they do, that's awesome. But I feel like a lot of times you'll hear that people are just like, okay, I have to go to work, I have to do this. And they're just like grogging through the day. And then after those 8 hours of work are done, then it's like, okay, this is my time. Let's go. Let's go do things that I really want to do. But entrepreneurs, they're not working for a company. They are their company. And I feel like 24/7, they have to be thinking about their business and they have to be just on their business because they could get a call at any time. It's their business. If something goes wrong, they have to like leave whatever they're doing and work on that because they are the walking face of their business. But still, entrepreneurs are able to do so much and they're able to balance all of that compared to just working 8 hours, is because usually when you start a business, you're invested in it and you really want to do it. So I feel like, again, really wanting to do something will make having a lot of that going on, having a lot of work, seem like something that you really want to do, and it won't seem as much burdensome if you truly enjoy what you're doing. So that's something I always say to everyone. Make sure that you love what you're doing because then it won't feel like work.
Yeah, and certainly it doesn't mean that there won't be things you don't like, because that's just part of life. We got to take out the trash. We got to um, clean the dishes, right? And those aren't necessarily
Yeah.
things we enjoy. But in work, yeah, I mean, I I saw a friend from college who graduated a couple years ago recently, and they were like, "Yeah, it just feels like every day at my 9 to 5 is kind of just blurs together, and it's like it's all my days gone, and then I go home, and it's like the weekends are fun, but they're kind of not. They're the only thing that I really look forward to." And it's like, well, that kind of sounds sad. I, that's I know that's a lot of people around the world, and that's really unfortunate because you want to enjoy the things that you do. And I do agree that entrepreneurship can be a great way to do that. But even if it is 9 to 5, like for my business, I would want the people who are working maybe 9 to 5 with me to feel like they really do have some value and enjoy what they're doing. Otherwise, don't work for me. Go work somewhere else where you're going to enjoy something. Um, and I just, that's another thing that I feel like I've been thinking about a lot lately. Like, how do people find the meaning to want to do their job, their life, go see family and friends? Like, I, I don't know. I think that's a big challenge, and it's good that we're having conversations like this young. I think that's one of the benefits of not only this podcast, but of course your podcast and all the other things that you're doing. Um, Getting people thinking about it in the first place. So I'm curious, talking kind of future plans and um, 9 to 5s. Obviously, you've still got a little bit of time before you graduate high school, being a junior. But tell us a little bit about your plans after high school.
Yeah, of course. So, what I plan to do, obviously, I still have a little bit of time. After high school, I'm hoping to major in something with data science or statistics along with business in college. And like I said before, business, I feel like is something every single person should know a little bit about, even if you don't want to go into business, but understanding how the systems behind your everyday life and your everyday transactions work is so essential. And just having a little bit of that finance piece too is really important to learn about because you're going to be managing your finances. And yes, what like money is a really important aspect of how you live your life. Even if it's not the most important thing, you need to know how to manage that. So I definitely hope to take a minor in business or in finance, in entrepreneurship, something like that, along with data science, statistics, because obviously I love AI and I love STEM. So I'm hoping to study those things in college.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm really excited to meet more people in college and spread the mission of my organizations there. I see a lot of people when they start initiatives in high school, once they graduate, they tend to fade out. But something that I've really been thinking about and I really want to do is to make sure that these don't fade out. And I want to carry this mission and I want it to be able to spread to wherever city I go and also create those systems that will allow it to keep going in Allen, in my local community, is something I've been trying to create more often. And instead of me doing all the work or leading all the work in my organizations, I've been trying to make sure if I wasn't there, could my team still function? Could it still happen? Because I feel like that's the point of a good CEO. I read this in a book recently, and it's like a CEO is a good CEO. Like you're finding a company well, a founder, a CEO, you're doing well in that company if your team can function without you. Because you should be the person that's overseeing everything and aligning the mission of the organization instead of trying to control everything. And like I said, I'm very type A, so I end up being a very neat freak and getting into the work, making sure everything's perfect according to how I want to represent my organization. But something I've been working on recently is making sure that I trust my team and letting them handle things on their own. Because when I go to college, I want these chapters to still be functionable and I don't want to be double checking every single thing. So that's something that I've definitely had to learn to do a lot more, is learning to delegate those tasks and truly delegate them instead of just telling people to do it and then also like checking in. But instead, trusting that my team can do it, I feel like is something that often high schoolers who start initiatives have to learn to do. So that's the process that I'm going through right now. And in college, I hope to, again, bring these organizations and just keep creating more change that helps young people do the things that they really want to do.
Will you keep the Allen chapter?
Yes. So I hope to keep it going in Allen, and I hope that I set those systems in place that it can keep going. And then I also hope to create more chapters in whatever city I end up going to college in. I want to bring the change there too.
Yeah. So what is a what do the teams look like for each of your organizations, and kind of what is a day-to-day, what does a typical meeting look like for each individual one?
Yeah, so I can start with Code with Impact. We're a team of about 30 high school students, and whenever we meet, we're always strategizing on what we can do for our workshops, what we can do for our hackathons or innovation competitions that we like to host in our workshops. And so our meetings are usually either they're in person or they're structured over Zoom, and we're always being very collaborative, and it's very fluid because we're all trying to be creative and doing more things. Yes, there's a structure, but we try to get the whiteboard out and try to brainstorm things and create more unique ways that we can get kids interested in STEM and interested in coding. With Reviving Calm, I have a team of about 10, 12 yoga instructors. And along with this, we do partner Reviving Calm with Code with Impact. So we have 12 yoga instructors who are teaching that workshop of yoga because we have it in a 5-week structured workshop. So we'll teach yoga and meditation, and we'll do like pre and post surveys to see how those kids have recultivated calm and confidence. And along with that, we take those innovation competitions that people are doing with Code with Impact, because last time we had our hackathon, it was centered on mental health. So those apps that were created on mental health, we shared that with our yoga and meditation workshops and those classes. And so it was great to see those two initiatives that have started coming together. So that was great. And whenever we meet for Reviving Calm, it's basically like a workout class. We're doing yoga poses and we're planning out to see if we can do it. If it seems interesting to us, would the kids like it? We're always trying to come up with different names to name the poses so the kids like the poses. And that's been really nice. We're formatting intro classes, so we like to theme each class around a thing. So we've had themes as like be fluid like water, learn how to embrace your breath as your inner superpower. We've had themes on like be more energetic and be calm, you're a firecracker. And so we like to create fun little things to start the yoga classes off. So with our Reviving Calm meetings, it's always creative and we're always trying out poses. With Computer Shians, that's mostly something that I lead. It's mostly something that I'm interviewing people with. So what I always like to do with it is spread the word around my community and get more people involved with the process and get more people to share what the podcast is about. And I think every founder needs to be really comfortable with pitching what they're doing and needs to have so much, I'm using the word conviction again, so much conviction on what they're doing to be able to creatively put whatever they're building and tell that to other people. So other people can also get excited about that change. So that's what we do with Computer Shians, is I try to spread the word about my podcast and get more people, more young girls listening to the podcast and being inspired by women in computer science.
Absolutely. Have you read the book? Oh my gosh, it just left me. I'll remember it in a second. But there's a concept in this book called the 80-20 rule. 80% done by somebody else is 100% better than you doing it yourself. Have you heard of this idea before?
Yes, I've heard of the 80-20 principle, but that's like a really cool way to structure it, where it's like you said 80% of the work done by someone else is 100% better than what's done by you. I
Yes.
love that because that goes back to delegation. Like I was saying, it's so essential to trust other people can do your work. And I really like that. How 80% of it should be that another person of your team does, because that'll allow you to have more creative and more influential ideas. And I feel like it's really nice to learn how to give away some of the important decisions that need to be made to other people, because you don't want to burn yourself out and you don't want to do 100% of the things. So I love that. What I've also heard of the 80/20 principle as is like 80% of the outcomes are going to be based off 20% of what goes in. And I feel like 80/20 is such a cool number. You can do so many things with it. And that's also something that I've been trying to like pair in with delegation, is that I don't have to spend 4 hours designing a flyer or designing a presentation. I can spend an hour, and I've been trying to like limit the amount of time I spend on creating things, because I can spend an hour and do the same amount of work and it's still like 90% good, and that's awesome because then I can tell my team to pitch in and to tell me what else can I create on this, what else can we do together. And I feel like, again, it goes with time. How much time do you want to spend in something that maybe isn't as impactful as something else that you could spend time on? So learning how to get your team to be able to work with you and to be able to give them more positions of power, and just spending your time more wisely and spending it in something that's more intentional, I feel like is definitely something we should all start doing. And that's definitely something that I'm working towards achieving, being more intentional with my time.
Yeah, and it's being more intentional that the time you're spending is actually impactful. Like there are some things, again, like we said, taking out the trash, doing math homework, like you got to do them. But if 1 hour is spent on creating graphics versus 1 hour spent reaching out to new schools to do a reviving calm meditation day, like someone else could potentially make the flyer just as good, if not better than you. But could they spend that hour reaching out? Maybe not. So the value there is there's more value in spending the time reaching out. But what's difficult as a leader, at least for me, kind of similar to you, Kashika, as a type A person, is like, well, I could do it all myself, but then you run out of hours in the day, and it's like, oh, well, actually, maybe I can't. And having to give that up yeah, is challenging sometimes. I think I'm sure that resonates with people, but yeah, it's challenging to relinquish some control, but important for sure. So, well, before we ask our final question, is there anything else we missed that you think we should talk about?
Well, I love our conversation that we had. I feel like going back in to that creativity aspect of what code is, I want to hear your thoughts. I know that you're a music major. Do you Are you involved with anything related to STEM? I mean, I know you're building your business and that's entrepreneurship, but I want to hear, what do you think about creativity in business and creativity in entrepreneurship?
So to answer the first part of that question, um, the my business, Embrace Strings, we're making a product for violin and viola players, and I have no design or engineering experience. I have an amazing friend who um, helps me and is part of building this product. But with that, he does all the CAD fancy stuff. But I've certainly been able to help in different ways with, oh well, maybe this type of um, design or this thing will help make the product work better. And I think in general with STEM, it's not like you have to be trained in STEM to be able to do STEM. Like, of course, if you're doing chemistry, you have to know all of the equations and terms for chemistry. But I think just being able to think creatively doesn't mean you have to be in the clouds like artsy fartsy type personality. You just have to be able to think about different ways to solve a problem, because that's really what creativity is. It's problem solving, just like STEM.
Exactly.
It's okay, I have this need, how can we fill it? And there's a million ways to fill it, but what's the best way to fill it? So maybe that answers the question, but I think creativity is just high level problem solving in unique different ways, and anybody can do that.
Exactly. I love that.
Awesome. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll kind of jump to our closing question. If you had to go back to freshman year and give advice to that version of yourself, what advice would you give?
Oh, this is such a hard question. I love that. Okay, if I was to go back and give advice to my younger self, I feel like when I first had the idea of starting these organizations, of being a leader, of starting this whole vision of a company, of an organization that I had, and getting a team together, I was pretty doubtful. I was like, am I cut out for this? Can I start an organization? If I start it, will anybody even join? Will it just be like me and my friends doing things, or will I be able to actually create change? And I feel like that's something that I was super scared of, and I feel like I did delay starting some of the organizations, starting Code with Impact a little bit because of that. But I would just go back and tell myself to start early, to start before you're ready, because you don't have to wait until you're perfectly ready. And like I said, we're both type A persons. Until the plan is perfectly created, do not wait for that. But instead, start before you're ready, because you can learn on the way, and trust in yourself that if something goes off or you don't know what to do, you are such an incredible person that you can figure out how to adapt to hurdles. And something that I had to remind myself was that, yes, hurdles will come on the way. Yes, it will be hard to get people to join when you're first starting an organization. But I would tell my younger self to have trust in herself, that she can do whatever she sets her mind to. And that, yes, it will be hurdlesome, but as long as you have your friends and the people who truly believe in that organization's mission, and that you truly believe in your organization's mission, is that you can conquer any feat that comes your way, and that it's okay if it's like hard to get started at first, if it's hard to create friction to move your company off the ground, because that's the whole point. It's supposed to be hard, and you're supposed to do incredible things that are hard. And I would just go back and tell my younger self to be more confident in herself, to be more okay with starting things before she's ready, because that's something that everyone has to do. Start before you're ready, stay curious, and know that you can adapt and learn along the way.
Those are some great pieces of advice. Kashika, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Turner. I loved our conversation today, and I hope it inspires other young people.
I'm sure it will.